and for entirely different reasons, people in this country came out of sorts with both of them.
Was Gordon Brown right to blame himself for the last election?
Well, Labour lost. I don't think much of Labour's policies were unpopular. I think we all went down together, I think.
Mehdi Hasan, do you think David Miliband's the best person to lead the Labour Party?
Short answer, not necessarily. I would like to see a much wider field and see who all the candidates are. He has a very talented younger brother that a lot of people are waiting to see if he'll throw his hat in the ring, Ed Miliband. There are other candidates. My biggest concern is that it shouldn't be done quickly. There's now a kind of movement beginning that says we should have a new leader in place by July. Why? We're not going to have another election till 2015, we're told, by the oracle in the corner. So I think we've got lots of time. I think we'll have another election in 2 years, and within 2 years, so we can have a wager on that on air, and I'll probably win. But I do think we should take our time. The Labour Party should take its time. The public and the media shouldn't hurry it. All the candidates should declare. They should have a proper debate. Labour does need to rethink a lot of things. You know, Charlie's being polite. There's some big issues to deal with. Civil liberties, which the Liberal Democrats rightly capitalised on. The Iraq War, which is a stain on Labour's record in government for 13 years. And I think that's a problem for David Miliband, of course, having been the Foreign Secretary in that government, having voted for that war. So let's see who else runs. But they should take their time and have a proper rethink about what the Labour Party stands for, who it's going to appeal to. It didn't do as badly as some feared in coming third. It has a good chance in the next election. It will be a straight battle between Labour and the Conservatives in the next election. The Liberal Democrats have ruled themselves out.
Yes, sir.
Just to Lord Falconer about you saying Labour lost the trust. You literally lost it. You left it on trains. You left it on buses. You stole it with the...
I left it on trains. I left it in taxis, but I don't know that leaving documents on a train or a bus necessarily played that significant a part in our election defeat, but I could be wrong.
Maybe not yourself personally, but to gain back the people's trust, you need to actually listen to the people. Things like the Iraq War, there was no such thing as a referendum. I actually marched myself with millions of people, not that I personally knew, but we marched against it, and you still took us to war. And whoever takes power of the Labour government next time seriously needs to take our considerations into consideration, because we put you in place, and we won't do it again if you're going to do that again.
Did you vote against Labour this time, then?
I did.
You did. Can you say how you voted?
I voted Liberal.
OK. You voted Liberal, right. Michael Heseltine, who do you think... I don't know why you should have a view on this, the weakest person possible, I suppose.
I hope that people will understand if I say I don't care.
You ought to care. No, your opponent in the next election.
Yes, but the Tories will win the next election.
I don't
have any doubts at all that the Tories will win the next election. The Labour Party never had a chance in this election. Once the economy, the world economy, let's be frank about it, got into the trouble it did, multiplied by the domestic economic situation for which this government is responsible, or was responsible, there was no way back for them, and there hasn't been a way back for years, looking at the polls. What will now happen is we will see difficult, hard decisions. The government will become unpopular, and that's why there won't be an election in the course of the next couple of years, because neither Liberals nor Conservatives would dream of having an election. They are bound together now by the unpopularity of what they're going to have to do. So the issue is what happens at the end of the 5 years. And I think there's a very reasonable chance to believe the economy will have come through, will look a great deal better, and they will get, the Conservative-led coalition will get the credit for it. Now, it's a matter of how that divides between the three parties, and I'm not going to try and speculate on that. But the one thing that I don't see is there being a demand for change in 4 or 5 years' time. And that's the key word, time for a change. That's what destroyed Gordon Brown's government.
And even though that time for a change was a very powerful factor in the election, the Tories didn't get an overall majority. I do not claim that we were popular, but something happened in the public's view about the Tories which meant they wouldn't give them an overall majority.
Well, no, Charles, you know as well as I do that David Cameron went into that election with an 8-point handicap. He had to be 8 points ahead in order to gain a majority of 1. And there is only one post-war precedent for a swing of that size, and that was 97.
He had a 20% lead.
Yes, but that's midterm.
Went down and down and down.
That's midterm. The midterm always coalesces towards the election time.
Let's not refight the election. You, sir, in the frontier, yes.
Yeah, I think the Labour Party needs to go back and kind of reinvigorate itself. But I think it might be a mistake to choose a Blairite leader, because, I mean, we've got two leaders of the other two parties who are very Blair in style, and I think people are going to realise that style's not going to win over substance eventually. And also, I think the Miliband brothers are going to put us to sleep. And Ed Miliband's good as a bureaucrat, but not necessarily as a politician.
Who would keep you awake?
Well, even though I think Ed Balls wrecked the chance of a coalition with the Liberal Democrats by driving too hard a bargain, he's someone who kind of believes in a lot of the intellectual traditions of the Labour Party, like the Fabians and stuff. So I think someone like him,
you're being very unfair to both the Miliband brothers. The one thing they are not is boring. I also think that David would not regard himself as a Blairite. I think we have to accept that we've moved on from the Blair and the Brown period, and we want somebody new. But that's got to be debated. And when you watch the debates, the idea that either Ed Miliband or David Miliband would be boring is wrong. And the idea that Ed Miliband is a bureaucrat, I think, is about a million miles off beat.
And Ed Balls, who he would like to see?
Well, Ed Balls is a lovely man, very talented. He, I'm sure, will get his chance in time.
I think Ed Miliband's good at writing, like,
he will get his chance in time.
Yes, I don't know when that may be, but I hope that...
It sounds like Blair Brown all over again. Miliband goes first, and Balls will get his chance when time goes. History repeats itself.
All right, and you, sir, yes.
It's interesting that Lord Heseltine refers to what was Brown's recession now as a global recession. With the rise in jobless total today, what are we going to call these? Cameron's unemployed or what?
No, I said that it was a world recession worsened by Brown's stewardship of the economy.
Let's just stick with the Labour Party leadership. Melanie Phillips.
Well, I don't think one can really say who should be the Labour Party leader. At least I don't wish to say who should be the Labour Party leader, because I think there's a prior question that needs to be answered, which is that any potential leader worth his or her salt has got to first of all identify what it is the Labour Party actually stands for anymore. The problem with the Blair-Brown regime was not because it came to grief over this policy or that policy, or even because of the manifest lack of trustworthiness that we all found so revolting. It was because Blairism was itself an attempt to answer the question, what the hell is Labour for anymore, in the wake of the collapse of socialism in the world. And it was an attempt to answer that question that came up with this sort of push-me-pull-you, triangulated, too clever by half, we support the market, but we're also for equality, nonsense.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with being favour of the market and equality?
I'll tell you what's wrong with it. It's completely incoherent, because it's not based on any coherent set of principles, and as a result, it produced government which collapsed under the weight of its own incoherence and just collapsed completely. Right. But the problem is, what does it have instead?
We lost an election.
But what does it have instead? It can't go back to Clause 4 socialism. It can't go back to command and control by the state. The problem is that the Labour Party is, I'm afraid, representing a creed which is past its sell-by date. Right, we now have a new progressive coalition, which is the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives, who are going to merge into one pale, greeny, orange...
Yes. Stop. Before the analogies get too egregious. The woman there with the glove on.
Oh, I was just thinking, something you said earlier. I think it's really bad how Cameron looks like Blair, who looked like Thatcher. Is it not time we got a new leader with, like, new ideologies instead of regurgitation politics? I mean, the massive consensus between parties. I mean, there's no electric choice, which is, like, a key part of democracy, and it seems completely bogus.
What kind of person would you like?
I don't know, someone like... Well, the reason I like Lib Dems is because I thought they looked like revolutionary. They seemed like modern, the modern way. That's what they were proposing.
Nicholas Clegg.
And now it's all gone backwards. It's like traditional parties with outdated ideals. How are they supposed to appeal to generations like us when we're the next people to vote?
And you don't feel warmly towards Clegg?
I used to. Not so much anymore. I think he's gone against... I mean, PR was their most attractive factor, and they're offering a referendum which can be opposed, and then, like, the Conservatives are going to make all constituencies the same size, which is just going to mean that we're trapped with them for many years.
OK. The man in front of you.
Surely the only quality required of the next Labour leader is not to appeal to the electorate, but to be able to appeal to Nick Clegg on May the 7th, 2015.
No. I bet you will find... They're betting on the next election. When do you think Nick Clegg is going to join the Conservative Party to stay in power? 2 years? 3 years?
He's not even going to have a significant presence in the next election. Can you imagine being in the Labour Party headquarters in the next election? What's your first pamphlet? Vote Clegg, get Cameron. Has a ring to it, and it's true. I mean,
right.
Hugely compromised.
Yes, briefly, if you would.